Hey, and welcome to this week's edition of the Life and Legacy Show, sponsored by the Sechler Law Firm, where great families make great estate plans. My name is Tim Sechler. I am your host each and every week on this radio show, where my goal is to get you the information you need to make great decisions on behalf of your family when it comes to your legal needs, estate planning in particular. If you look back over the years of this radio show, all we do is provide education. My philosophy has always been that well-informed decisions are typically better decisions, and so why not give the people the information that they need rather than hiding the ball? And so we've got lots of content on our YouTube channel. We do this radio show. If you check out our website, it's full of blog articles, just with the goal of giving you the information you need to make great decisions for your family. And this educational sort of concept that we have is why I'm excited to tell you that October is Estate Planning Awareness Month, which fits right in line with our philosophy anyhow. So this week, this month, we are doing a ton of extra content, extra educational opportunities for you to take advantage of. Now, remember, this radio show and the content we put out is for your education and your information. This is not designed to be legal advice. This stuff is complicated. And if you have a legal problem, you should hire a lawyer. My lawyers are available anytime at SechlerLawFirm.com, S-E-C-H-L-E. Sorry, I spelled my own name wrong. S-E-C-H-L-E-R. lawfirm.com, and there you can register for one of our upcoming workshops, where I want to tell you about an event that we have coming up that I think is going to be fantastic. It's a one-time only type thing that we're doing, and it is called the Family Legacy Workshop. It is going to be on October the 23rd at 6 p.m. in Warrendale, and what we're doing is this going to be it's going to be a talk that I'm personally going to do, but it's going to be a bit of an open house. Come in, get some information about estate planning, okay? And it doesn't matter if you are the parent of a young child wanting to know how best to plan for little kids, or if you are maybe a retiree looking to protect assets from probate taxes or the nursing home. You know, those are different goals. But what we're going to do with this workshop is we're just going to get you started with some information. And so if you've been sort of like thinking in the back of your mind, I need to do this stuff, I'm not sure where to get started. Should I go online? Should I hire a lawyer? If I'm going to hire a lawyer, what should I tell them? And what tools should I end up doing? And so what this workshop is not going to be, this event is not going to be a heavy sales pitch. I mean, obviously, a lot of what I do to try to earn your trust and earn your business. But with this particular workshop, there's not going to be any discounts for signing up for an estate plan tonight. There's not going to be any high-pitched sales tactics. Leave your wallet at home. Just come and get some great information and get started on your journey. If that journey happens to be with my law firm, fantastic. If that journey is you're going to get an estate plan some other way, hey, look, that's great. I just want you to do an estate plan. I think we do a heck of a nice job doing this stuff, but you got to make sure that we're the right fit for you. But this event is going to be the right fit for you. Bring the kids. They can scream and run and cry. I don't really care. I got little kids. I know how it is. But we're just going to provide lots of information, Q&A. If it goes long because of the Q&A, it goes long because of the Q&A. But just come in, and the information that you're going to get is designed to replace a paid consultation. So if you just called the law firm and wanted to sit down with a lawyer, we got to charge you for that lawyer time. And those first meetings are always educational in nature. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do the education piece as a group on October 23rd rather than charging a whole bunch of families $500 for an initial consultation. So come, check it out, grab a snack, have some fun, learn a little bit about this stuff, and let's put together a great plan for your family. And I started with last week's radio show going through a list of things that I wish people knew about estate planning. This is kind of the thing that we're doing for Estate Planning Awareness Month, is the things that I think you ought to know, right? In last week's episode, if you missed it, we went through 7 or 8 things I think you ought to know. So let's just recap. We talked about it's not just about death planning. Estate planning is really about planning for a happy retirement and a good life. We talked about the fact that estate planning is not just for wealthy people. I wish it wasn't called estate planning. I wish there were better words, because when people hear estate, they think one of two things. One, they think we're talking about real estate, and I don't own a house, so I don't need to do estate planning. Well, that's a misconception. That's not what we're talking about. Your estate is your stuff, right? It's your retirement account, it's your money, it's your life insurance. But the other thing that kind of comes from this word estate planning is like there's like this era of wealth associated. Oh, I have an estate. You go by these super ritzy neighborhoods, and it's always called the estates of wherever, right? And that's not really what it is either. Estate planning is not just for wealthy people. Estate planning is for everyday people. We just have to, the tools that somebody with $50 million looks a little different from somebody whose savings is $50,000. But we still have to do some planning because estate planning is more about the people we love more than it is how many dollar signs are showing up in a bank account. And so we talked about that last week. Another thing that we pointed out last week is most people don't have a plan. Most people don't even have a document, right? Most people don't have a simple will. But even people that have a simple will, they don't necessarily have a plan because that's a document that may or may not line up well with like your beneficiary designations on your retirement account, right? So an estate plan uses documents to achieve certain objectives. But we also need to do some alignment with the financial assets, the beneficiary designations, account ownership, what your financial advisor is doing by way of advice. We have to line all that up to make sure that we have a comprehensive plan. And so by far, most people don't have any documents in place. But even those people that do have like a will, for example, that doesn't mean necessarily that they've got a good plan. It just means that they have a document. There's a distinction. Another thing we talked about last week is that most people should use a trust. There's a situation where pretty much everybody I run into should have a trust incorporated into their estate plan, whether that is a trust for little kids, so that if you would pass away young, they don't get control of the money on their 21st birthday, whether that is a trust for protection of your assets from things like taxes or probate fees or long-term care expenses. But there's typically a pretty good call for a trust to be incorporated into somebody's estate plan in pretty much every client I meet. But that requires a little bit more education, and so that's why we do events like the upcoming Family Legacy Workshop on October the 23rd. Another thing that we talked about was the dirty little secret in the estate planning world that most estate plans don't work, because even when people do incorporate trusts into their estate plan, which I think is the right idea, lots of law firms don't fund the trust. They don't put anything in it, which is the wrong idea, right? So a good idea poorly implemented is still a bad result. And if we get the right documents in place, but we don't put anything into the plan is not going to work as it was designed. And a lot of law firms will help you get a trust, and then they never put anything in it, which is why with our Red Wagon Club, our ongoing membership program, we have funding classes at least once a month, usually twice a month, to help people get the assets funded into their trust. Another thing that we talked about last week I wish people knew is it's not just about death and taxes. It's not just about, saving money for taxes. So sometimes I see people that sort of like want to let the tax tail wag the dog, so to speak. We've been brainwashed for our entire lives that we never pay a dime in taxes. And the reality is we all pay some taxes. But none of us are probably going broke over taxes. So even the Pennsylvania inheritance tax, for example, is a 4.5% tax. If you leave assets to your kids, it's a 4.5% tax. Well, okay, I don't want to pay it either, but I'm also not going to rearrange my life to save my kids a 4.5% of their inheritance. And so it's not just about death and taxes. It's more about making sure that the assets that do get to the kids get there with the right terms and conditions, the right support structure to make sure that our kids have a better future, not just a bag of money on the kitchen table. Another thing that I wish people knew is that estate planning, one of the documents incorporated is the power of attorney, and most power of attorney documents stink, okay? They don't have enough provisions, they don't have enough language, they're not strong enough, and we get into a situation, which at our law firm we frequently do, about a half a dozen times a month, we're helping somebody who needs some long-term care. They want to talk to us about VA benefits or Medicare benefits or Medicaid benefits, and the eligibility for those programs. Sometimes we need to shift ownership of assets between the spouses or to some trust. And a lot of the time, the power of attorney document you have that was drafted by some attorney who does family law on Tuesdays, criminal court on Wednesdays, writes powers of attorney on Thursdays, and golfs on Fridays. A lot of those documents, they simply don't have the right language that we need in order to properly protect your family. And so the power of attorney stinks. So that's the stuff we talked about last week. A couple more things that I think are super important for you to know. And all of this is we're just doing some quick hitters here, some things that I truly wish that everybody just kind of knew. And we're doing the episode this way in honor of Estate Planning Awareness Week. If you look back through the archives, I've done full episodes on pretty much every one of these topics. You can go listen if you're concerned about what I was just talking about, powers of attorney. There are 30-minute episodes on power of attorney documents. But that's not today. Today is just, these are the things I wish you knew, and we're trying to do this in support of Estate Planning Awareness Month. And our big event is going to be October the 23rd. We're expecting to have a bunch of people at our office in Warrendale. We have an education center. This is a free event. You're going to learn all types of estate planning stuff. We're going to learn the tools, wills, and trusts and powers of attorney, and how we use them to protect, say, little kids if you would pass away young, how we can properly plan to make sure that our little humans turn into good adult humans. And we're also going to talk about asset protection, because amongst our retiree clients, that's a big thing. A lot of our clients want to know how they can protect assets from things like taxes and long-term care expenses. So we'll spend lots of time on that. So bring the kids. Come as you are. This is not a heavy sales event. Leave your pocketbook at home. Let's just get you some good information. All right. Okay. Another thing that I wish people knew about estate planning is that the most important document is not the will. All right, and everybody says, "Oh, I got a will. I got a will." I'll ask my friends, I'll ask family members, "Do you have an estate plan?" "Yeah, we did a will a few years back." Well, that's not even the most important document. Okay, now that is the document. What's the primary purpose of a will? The primary purpose of a will is to answer the question, "Who gets my stuff when I pass away?" Right? I mean, that's its primary job. But then what most people do is most people go and send all their money via beneficiary designations and sidestep the helpful provisions of the will in the first place. But the will also doesn't matter if you're still alive. The will is a death document. The will matters after you pass away. And what I'm seeing is, and if there's going to be things that go through the will, they're going to go through probate if they go through the will. That assumes there's still some stuff left. And what I'm seeing with our retirees is that that's not a safe assumption. Nursing homes in Pennsylvania can be $150,000 a year, and you pay by yourself until you go broke if you don't have proper plans in place. And so people that rely on a simple will, like if your estate plan is the same as your great-grandfather's, listen, the world is not the same as your great-grandfather's. Things are more complicated. There aren't family caregivers the way that there used to be. There's people are living older, but their brain goes first. And there's all kind of different things that are going on right now. And the estate plan needs to reflect reality. And in a lot of the situation, the will is not the most important document. The most important document is the power of attorney and a trust that can be used, if done properly, to protect assets from these issues, to make sure that there actually is something to go to the kids. And that's a big topic that we're going to talk about at the Family Legacy Workshop on October 23rd at 6 p.m. at our office in Warrendale. This is a free event, but you have to register. You go to SechlerLawFirm.com, click the button beneath the video of me. Welcome you to the website. There's a button there that says register for the Family Legacy Workshop. If you hit that button, you register, tell us how many people are coming, and we'll reserve your seat for you. And I hope you take advantage, because we're going to just provide tons and tons of free information at this event and save you a whole bunch of money that you would have otherwise spent on a paid consultation to sit down with a lawyer to learn. Another thing I wish you knew about an estate plan is that it's not just about money. One of the things that we do with our Red Wagon Club members, which is the program that we have for people who are our legal clients and want to continue this process of planning for their family, is we have a regular workshop that we teach on how to record some videos for your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. How can you tell your story? Because I can tell you, after having done this for a long time, your kids and your grandkids in most families, they care more about you and your story than they do about your money. And unfortunately, most estate planning law firms only focus on the money, where we want to make sure we get those memories, your core values. We want to make sure that we're telling your story to your kids. I made my mom sit down and record some videos. I interviewed her once just because I want to have it. And I asked her things like, "Hey, tell me about the house you grew up in." And it just sparks conversations we never had before. But now I've got this video that I can watch whenever I want. My grandkids can watch about about my mom, and it's just, to me, it's as important planning as it is to plan for who gets the money when you pass away. And so a thing I wish more people knew about estate planning is that estate planning is not just about the money. But let's talk about the money for a second. So another thing I wish that people knew about estate planning is that you should not put your stuff in your kid's name. Now, listen, this is not legal advice. I can't do legal advice in a video like this, but you need to use caution here. Let me explain a few things, okay? So first, let's talk about why people want to put their stuff in their kid's name to begin with. There's some misconception that this is the right way to plan for long-term care, or that we're going to avoid some taxes by doing this, but here's the thing when it comes to long-term care. This is really risky, all right, because you can't just put your stuff in your kid's name on Tuesday and expect that the state is going to pay your nursing home on Thursday. It doesn't work that way. The state has a 5-year look-back period, okay? So in theory, you could put your stuff in your kid's name for 5 years, and then it's protected from long-term care. But this is so risky because 5 years is a long time. I mean, that's why it's a 5-year look-back period, right? And life changes in 5 years. I mean, ask yourself this question. Are you the same? Are you in the same financial position? Are your kids in the same financial position that they were in 5 years ago? Are they having marital problems? Is there a new marriage? Have they gone through a divorce? Or have the kids gone to college? Or is there a drinking problem somewhere in the family? All of the things that goes wrong. And the challenge is people are trying to put their stuff, their house, their money into their kid's name to protect it from, from your issues. But all you're doing is exposing the assets not only to your issues, but also to your kids' issues. Because if I put my house in my kid's name and then my kid goes to a divorce, where's that house? If I put if I put some money into my kid's name and my kid goes to a divorce, what happens to the money? What happens if my kid dies before me? Who's going to inherit the house or the money now? My son-in-law? What happens when he remarries? How am I going to know that I've still got a place to live? And importantly, what are the odds that if I get sick in the next 5 years, I'm ever going to see that asset again? What happens if I put my house in my kid's name and my kid simply spends it, gets laid off? In 2020, a lot of people got laid off, and a lot of the savings that the parents had transferred to the kids got smoked. This is risky stuff. And if you're trying to do this to protect assets from, say, long-term care expenses, I want to tell you there's a better way to do it. It's a thing called an asset protection trust, which is one of the things that we're going to talk to you about at the Family Legacy Workshop on October 23rd at 6 p.m. Now, this is a free workshop where it's a one-time event that we're doing in honor of Estate Planning Awareness Month, the month of October. And on October 23rd, we're going to invite a whole bunch of people in. And it doesn't matter to me your age, your demographics, if you've got little kids or if you've got little great grandkids. Come to the event. We're gonna do a presentation, and we're just gonna do Q&A for a long time. If you got lots of questions, we got lots of answers. This is an information session. You can leave your pocketbook at home. We just want to get you some great information. One of the things that I think is that educated decisions are typically better decisions, and one of the reasons that families don't do good estate planning is they're afraid. They're afraid to call a lawyer knowing that the billable hours are going to start. And I don't even know what I'm getting myself into, and they're going to start charging me. And so one of the things I feel real strongly about is we need to do the education piece for free, because by doing the education piece for free, now we can eliminate that fear, and you can really just focus on what's the right move for your family. And so that's what we're going to talk about, the Family Legacy Workshop. Now, I need you to register for this workshop. If you think you want to come, with the seating's limited on this thing, we're probably going to fill it up. So on October 23rd, you can go to SechlerLawFirm.com. My last name is spelled Sechler, lawfirm.com. And there's a video of me on the homepage welcoming you to the website. And then right below that is a button you can push for Family Legacy Workshop. Register, tell me how many people are coming with you so we know how to plan for you. And come on out. Bring the kids. You don't have to go hire a sitter to do this. You don't have to take a day off of work. It's an evening event. Just come and get the information you need to take care of your family. That's the Family Legacy Workshop, October 23rd, 6 p.m. Go to SechlerLawFirm.com. All right, now I've got another thing I wish that people knew about estate planning, which is related to the thing that we were talking about before about you should not put your stuff in your kids' names, is that beneficiary designations alone don't work, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, most people listening to this show, most people watching this video, probably have an asset with a beneficiary designation on it. It might be a retirement account. It might be a life insurance policy, but you probably have something that has a beneficiary designation on it. And that means when you pass away, the money goes according to the terms of that contract with the financial institution rather than your estate plan, rather than like a will or a trust. Here's the challenge. Beneficiary designations really only answer one question, and that question is who gets it when I pass away, right? But I want to suggest to you that there's some other questions that we need to incorporate into the estate plan. One of which is, well, what happens if that person is young? What happens if they're disabled, right? If I have a retirement account right now, a lot of people listen to this. If you got kids, your life insurance and your retirement account probably says all to my spouse and then to the kids, right? But what happens if the kid, you and your spouse pass away and your kid is still in their teen years? What happens then? What age do they get the money? You know, a lot of parents go out and buy these super expensive, not super expensive, but super valuable term life insurance policies. You know, it could be a couple $1 million death benefit. Do we really want to give your 21-year-old kid a couple $1 million in life insurance proceeds on their 21st birthday? Because that wouldn't have worked out very well for me, you know, and it probably won't work out very well for your kids. And so be hesitant to only rely on beneficiary designation. Now, what we can do with a properly drafted estate plan is we could create a trust for the benefit of your kids, and we can send the life insurance money to the trust, and now we got some money. We got somebody in control of that money until a later age that can help your kids out. And so don't rely too heavily on beneficiary designations. Another thing that I want you to know about estate planning is that estate planning, when done properly, is not a transaction. Okay, so in law school, they talk about estate planning as being transactional law, meaning client pays the attorney to prepare some set of documents. The attorney does that. The client pays. That's the transaction. Once the client has signed that set of documents, it's the end of it. Right? It's the end of the transaction. It's the end of the relationship. That's not how we see it at the Sechler law firm. So I see estate planning as a relationship rather than a transaction. I want the plan to work the day I draft it, and I want the plan to work in 10 years. And often that means that we got to keep this thing updated because your life changes, the laws change. Your life is not the same as it was 5 years ago. Your life in 5 years will not be the same as it is today. And we need the estate plan to be a living document that works and continues to work. And so we have a thing that we call our Red Wagon Club, which is committed to making sure that our clients are staying on top of this stuff and doing comprehensive planning, not just buying some document. And so estate planning, when done properly, is not a transaction. It's a relationship, and we want to make sure we take care of you today and tomorrow. Another thing I wish people knew about estate planning is if you're retirement age or pushing in on retirement age and you own a house, your house should probably be in an asset protection trust. And there's lots of reasons for this. We'll talk about lots of the reasons. It's a little longer format than what we're doing here today. And we've done lots of radio shows about this in the past. But I feel very strongly that a lot of retirees and soon-to-be retirees' house should be in an asset protection trust, because it is a great tool to accomplish what your objectives likely are. More than likely, what you want to do is you want to have a great retirement. You want to not give up control of your money in your house. You want to have some stress-free living in your retirement. Know that you and your spouse are okay if one of you gets sick. And when you pass away, we've protected that house from things like long-term care expenses and probate, and we get it to your kids as quick as possible. I mean, those are great objectives, right? The best tool that I'm aware of to do that for you is a thing called an asset protection trust. And if you don't have an asset protection trust, you should probably take a look at it for the primary residence. And so what we're going to talk to you about at the Family Legacy Workshop that we're doing October 23rd at 6 p.m. This is a free event in our event center. And we're going to teach you things like estate planning tools, the difference between a will and a trust, the difference between a revocable trust and an asset protection trust, and just get you the information you need to make great decisions for your family. And speaking of great decisions for your family, the last thing that I want to talk to you about and that I wish people knew about estate planning. I wish people recognized that you probably love your family too much to leave them an inheritance outright. You leave your family too much. You love your family too much to leave them an inheritance outright. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's say I pass away, right? And my stuff goes through a will or a trust, and it eventually goes to the kids, and then the kids inherit the money, and then we pay off final expenses and taxes, and then the kids just get the money, right? It's like a bag of money on the kitchen table. Well, okay, that's good until life takes a twist and a turn, and then what happens if my kid inherits this money and then goes through a divorce? What happens if my kid inherits the money and then gets sued? What happens if my kid inherits the money and dies shortly thereafter? Where's the money going next? These types of questions, like one of the things that a lot of our clients like to plan for is what happens if I leave my little girl and her inheritance and then she goes through a divorce? What's going to happen with that money? And we can plan for that. We use a thing called a separate share trust. We give the kids their inheritance in their own trust that can protect it from those types of things. But a lot of estate plans are not crafted that way. So a thing that I wish about a thing that I wish that people knew about estate planning is that I wish that they knew that it doesn't have to be an outright inheritance. There's a lot better ideas. And these are the things we're going to talk about. You should check out our free Family Legacy Workshop, October 23rd at 6 p.m. at our event center in Warrendale. Go to sechlerlawfirm.com to register for this event. Seating is going to be limited, so go there, register, save your seat today. I thank you for listening to this radio show. Remember, this is general information, not legal advice. If you need a lawyer, you need to hire us. Go to sechlerlawfirm.com. And thanks for listening to today's show.